Ryan Harding joins me live in our studio now. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. I noticed in the stand-up there from Bailey Howard that the sun was out. We saw some blue sky, at least here in Metro today. How did things look across the province?
Well, listen, it's not all equal here today. We'll go in forward with that with some tender hands, but sure, look, where there was snow today, listen, get used to it, because we got about 36 to 48 hours of very similar conditions. And where we had sun and cloud today, yeah, you can settle in and get used to that as well, because we have about 36 to 48 hours of those types of conditions as well. We're going to start things off on the Port-au-Port Peninsula. Now, bear with me now. Boswalas. Am I saying that right, boss? You can always Boswalas. Now, see, I got led astray because I asked some locals. All right, well, one of the two, email in. I'm sure you will. And between one of those two, we got it. Anyway, the beach there is lovely. I've actually been. So while maybe not 100% on the pronunciation, 100% on knowing that that beach is absolutely lovely, and you get some trails like this, which make that snow and the squalls well worth it. But it's been pretty consistent in this neck of the woods, hasn't it, Debbie? And you can see that build up and the drift in the snow, but makes a lovely trot through the woods. All right, let's take a quick look and see what the day brought here in terms of a temperature. Well, the temperature didn't have that much of a change, just minus 7.1, of course. So that wind chill, reflective as well. Just a degree in the difference, pretty well. Felt like minus 14, minus 15 all day long, and the sun rises on the Port-au-Port Peninsula at 7:59. We're getting closer to that 8 a.m. mark, boys, I tell you. Now, you can see still some snow falling off into the distance there in Corner Brook. It's been consistent in Corner Brook too, hasn't it? Well, for some, more to go, sorry, and for others, not sorry. You can see a quick game of King of the Hill being played here, sent in by Gail Rideout. Lots of memories of that, actually in the 6 o'clock. We'll compare this winter a little bit to the winter of the year 2000 and 2001, where it was my turn at this age to be playing King of the Hill, and there was plenty of snow then to do so. So stay tuned. We'll get to that. You can see here the winds shifting from the west. We saw a little bit from the northeast yesterday, and then return through the overnight, bringing those temperatures right back down. So for the west coast, here's that still some more to go this evening into the overnight. Now, while we see that dissipate briefly on the Baie Verte Peninsula, you can see the front edge of some snow pushing back in. So unless you're a real early bird on the northern portion of the island, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. really, that's the break from the snow, and then we get right back into it. But for the west coast, by 7 a.m., it's just some very light flurries seemingly around Stephenville and Trout River there. Could see a bit push through to Corner Brook, but by the afternoon, we are in the clear there. Now, last night, mentioned that wind and the change of it. Yeah, we had some gusts coming through, so going to Island, so Harbour Breton in that 96 category for 72 in Burgeo, 76 in St. John's, close to 90 in Bonavista. We do have that returning for these areas. It's going to take a little bit of time through this evening, but you can see it pushing along, and by that midnight hour through the overnight, we'll wake up to the peak of it tomorrow morning. So that commute in the morning, have a little bit of wind to it, 60 to 80 those gusts. You could see the rogue gust come up into that 90 kilometer per hour mark in the morning. For Central, we see that 30 to 50 kilometer per hour range. And it's going to be on the high end of the 30 by the looks of things, but the low end of the 50. And with that west wind, once again, just like today until tonight, more on that in a bit, that north wind pushing down into that stronger west wind is going to stall that snow. So where it snowed today, it's going to snow again tomorrow. Check out Makkovik, gusting to 40 by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Here's what that's doing to the temperatures through this evening into tomorrow. We'll see those drop, and take a look at Labrador City compared to St. John's. Can you believe it? Where earlier this week, over the weekend, not too long ago anyway, it felt close to that minus 50 mark in Labrador West, and now it is warmer than St. John's and St. Anthony as well. Look at Cartwright over the 0 mark. So that's the difference between that north and northeast wind we're seeing in Labrador and the west wind we're having come across. We put a wind chill on that. It's minus 17, feeling like in St. John's. It's going to feel like minus 15 in Labrador City. All right, we take a quick look at Labrador, where we still have some snow to go this evening along the coast. South coast for sure. Some flurries through Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Churchill Falls, and Labrador City. In terms of Labrador, outside of the south coast, The worst of it is behind for the day, but we do have some building up on the south coast through the overnight, starting in Cartwright and then pushing into early tomorrow morning. Now, we do have some flurries in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Shouldn't accumulate to any more than 1 to 2, maybe 3 centimeters on the high end, but this does push out relatively quickly and is replaced with some cloud. And then by the end of the day, you can see some light flurries finishing off in Cartwright. That's the Labrador portion. Let's take a look at the island. And here we go. We're starting to see those winds lighten a little bit, allowing for that snow to come down now into Grand Falls, Windsor, Gander, and the Kittiwake Coast as a whole. Could see some light snow at the back end of that band in Bonavista and the peninsula there. We talked about the west coast, seeing those flurries finish up. It looks like by 8 p.m. this evening, still snow in St. Anthony, Bayvert Peninsula, Fogo Island and beyond, right to the midnight hour. That wind picks up, so it breaks it up a little bit through the overnight, and then we rinse and repeat, and we see that come right back down, taking the same path of travel, and again, going to stall out in those same areas. So the next time we get together, we'll talk about what that means in terms of some totals, but it's going to be a very similar day tomorrow compared to what we had today, and it takes some time, but it looks like a lot of the island does break open into some sun and cloud, and we should get a couple sunsets, but some snowfall in there as well. So again, coming up, we'll take a 3-day, turn it into a 5-day, and then as well talk about the totals for Labrador and Newfoundland as a whole there, Tony Marie.
All right, thanks so much, Ryan. And
Well, definitely a messy day yesterday.
messy day yesterday. At least
Delayed
here.
opening this morning, schools.
That's right. Good news, though, it kind of cleared off this afternoon, at least in Metro. We saw a little bit of sunshine today. Wasn't the case everywhere, though, was it, Ryan?
No, and we'll take a look at some road cams from 1:30 this afternoon, which helped tell the story in St. Anthony and Flowers Cove, where the bulk of it, at least the highest totals we were anticipating, started to fall. We can take a look and see nothing. Now, I like to use the highway cams to kind of check in the day, see if it's snowing, where and when we mentioned, but this is why I like your photos coming through, because from the highway cams, yeah, you can tell it's snowing, but it doesn't really tell much more of a story beyond that, does it? Now, they weren't all like that. If we take a look into the south coast of Labrador, Lansalou, yeah, there was some snow there, but not whiteout conditions at the noon mark, although you only had to travel a little further up the 510 into Chateau Pond, where it was, yeah, those whiteout conditions returning. Daniels Harbor, one of the prettiest highway webcams out there on a clear day. You can see the ocean rolling through. Well, not so much today, but it does help tell the story, doesn't it? That snow was falling and the wind howling a little bit. Over in Port Anson, Kim sending this photo in, and it came with a message of running out of space to put it. Well, I got bad news for you, Kim, my dear. There's a little bit more on the way. We'll talk about the consistency in just a moment, but we can definitely recap that snow that came through. This one sent in by Oliver, and he said, not scientific, but the ruler shows 20 centimeters in Clarenville. Well, Oliver, boy, I got news for you. That's pretty scientific, actually. It's not far off how we calculate the snow, is it? 20 centimeters in Clarenville by way of Oliver there. Now, when we talked about the region we're looking at here, we had it in a 15 to 25 centimeter range by end of day yesterday. Large range, isn't it? But it's a large body of land, so we can take a look. St. John's got 22 at the airport when it was all said and done, but over in Paradise, we were at 18. So that's why we give that range. And we also mentioned there was an opportunity for an extra 3 or 4 in some pockets. Well, that pocket ended up being Gander, where we saw the total of 29 centimeters coming through. Now, it's been a bit of a busy winter, hasn't it? We've had snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm, and mixing some rain in there as well. Do you remember the year 2000, 2001? Were you there? That's when we broke the record in St. John's, which we'll focus on here for a minute before going to the rest of the province. Yeah, were you there? I was. Take a look. Little Ryan. Not a Colorado fan, by the way. It must have been the rebellious years. But you can see that that snow was packed up quite high. And we'll go through some of the details here now. But I can remember stepping out of my upper floor bedroom window onto the front lawn. Which that is just wild. The clothesline was covered in the year 2000, 2001. That snow just kept piling up. It was snowstorm after snowstorm. It started in November. It didn't end snowing until May. We had the record-breaking 648 centimeters of snow. In January alone, we had 185 centimeters, and it all totaled to over 200 million tons of snow. So it feels like this has been a really active winter, doesn't it? And in St. John's, we're getting a break today, but it's continuing across other parts of the province. So this year, yeah, we started seeing that snow in November. How long is it going to last? sorry for putting May up there, to be honest with you. We've had 208 centimeters so far. So January, 101 centimeters, a bit off from that. So if you do some quick math, we have November, December, January, 3 months. So if we have January, February, March, April, May, 4 months left to go. We can double that and add another 100. We'll still only be at 500 centimeters if we have what we've had into May. Now, January, we're going to need to have the day we had yesterday 4 more times to close out the winter to reach that January of 2001. And I tell you that because there are some regions that are facing that. So to bring that into perspective, that's kind of what we're facing on the north portion of the island. What we had yesterday, just kind of continuously with a few breaks in there. Let's take it one day at a time here, and we can see this morning we had the snow on the west coast, northern peninsula, northern portion of the island. We push into this evening where we had that wind lighten up a little bit, allowing for that stalled system to come down. So likely to see some snow, Badger, Grand Falls, Windsor, and into Gander here going forward for an hour or two. If we push through, it's going to last in through the evening. We had Barbara taking a note on Facebook here saying, it's been steady snowing here in Burlington since this morning. There must be an off button somewhere. Bad news, Barbara. There's not. There's a pause button, and it's right here. Between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., it looks like there's a break for the Bayvert Peninsula, Fogo Island, into Twillingate and the Kittiway Coast, but not for the Northern Peninsula. And then we just continue on through, and that's going to stall throughout the day into the 6 p.m. mark. We catch our breath. But then we start to see the west winds form once again. That's going to bring over another band of that system in the exact same area. So consistency right through to Friday that we can see pick up even more into Saturday. And there are some totals to that. And we're going to take a look at the next 24 and 48 hours totals for these regions. Just ask Corner Brook about the consistency. It hasn't stopped snowing, has it? But we do get a little bit of a break into Thursday before it picks back up again into the evening. And we can see that consistency across Labrador as well. Here is that break onto the west coast. It's going to last as flurries into this evening, and then by tomorrow morning we'll get that little bit of a break, but it's not too far north, is it? And then into the afternoon we'll see that come right back down again, and we'll get back into the snow for the west coast. So again, we'll bring you the totals. I hope that wasn't too much mumbo jumbo in the 2000-2001. Do you remember it? That was a wild year in the capital city. But just to give some perspective of how much snow is falling further to the north, how much we've had down here in the capital city as well.
I was actually out of the province for a chunk of that winter, so I missed a lot of it, but I do remember all the stories from home.
I remember all too well, actually. I was about 40. No, I'm just kidding. No, I certainly wasn't as little as you were, though, Ryan. But, yeah, I certainly remember a lot of those winters. Actually, when you think about it, I would have been not as good as you are, of course, but I would have been covering the weather forecast, and that would have been my gig here, and I would have been standing outside during most of those storms.
I'm sure you don't miss it.
I don't miss it at all. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks.
Oh, he said still some more to go on the northern portion of the island. You can take a look and see where we are currently. Cynthia Walsh sending this in Fleur-de-Lis. You can see the snow to the left. It's up to the ridge on the patio, and to the right, it's well up the doorway in the back as well. More on that in just a moment, but in terms of Labrador, we see some light wind this evening in Happy Valley Goose Bay, a little bit more on the coast, 40 to 50 the gusts, and it's that west wind on the southern portion of the island. On the west coast, it's going to drop the temperatures, but peak into tomorrow morning, back into that 60 to 80 kilometer per hour range, 50 to 70 for the Burin. It looks like 40 to 60 for the south coast there, 30 to 50 for the west coast up into the northern peninsula and through central as well. In fact, that's a cold west wind. Take a look at it, minus 16 in St. John's, and the difference between a west and a northeast wind. Take a look at Cartwright, feeling like minus 7 in Labrador City, minus 15 to kick off to Thursday. But if you'd have told me last week that St. John's was going to feel colder than Labrador City, I don't know. But here we are, and minus 9 is what it feels like in Happy Valley Goose Bay tomorrow morning with that lighter wind. That's going to do the exact same thing to that snow on the island into tonight. We do see a little bit of a drop as before we get that wind picking up. So again, tomorrow it's going to stall that system up a little further. But before then, the west wind bringing some flurries to the Burin Peninsula, the southern shore by the looks of things. And then again, we're going to see those flurries in the overnight lighten up on the west coast and finish off through the overnight in central. We take a look and see tomorrow morning that is doing that exact same thing as mentioned earlier. Going to stall the system further north to increase those totals into Fogo Island, across Twillingate, Bayvert Peninsula, and up into the northern peninsula. And we'll get to the south coast of Labrador in just a moment. It's going to show up here on a 5-day forecast where, because of that, we're seeing less snow on the eastern side and some sun and cloud. We do see the return of some snow on Monday, and I'll tell you now, that might have a little bit to it. We'll be due by then, won't we? South Coast, we see some additional snow on the Friday, and then not returning again until the Monday. And there's going to be some flurries in here for Central, but really that weekend looks lovely. All the way up to 0 degrees on Saturday with the sun and cloud, and we might need it before the Monday. We'll talk about that the closer we get to it. For the West Coast, yep, some flurries late into tomorrow evening, which is going to pick up into snow for Friday, hold into Saturday, get a break on the Sunday, return on the Monday. There's the consistency we see for the Northern Peninsula. Saturday morning, we'll see that snow finish up with some sun and cloud in the afternoon, lasting into Sunday before we return to that on the Monday. And on the South Coast of Labrador, we can see less of a break. Again, more on that in just a moment. To the North Coast, the temperatures getting to -5 on Friday and then cooling back into the double digits Sunday and Monday, but some sun and cloud in there. For Happy Valley Goose Bay, we have some snow potential Thursday, Friday, Saturday before the cloud takes over Sunday and Monday. The totals are pretty limited into Thursday, to be fair. So too for Labrador West, and then a nice little break. And you can see the temperatures pretty average, 12 below to -15, but cooler in the evenings. All right, so we'll go over this, and then we'll give you the actual numbers in a couple of ways here. But we can see into this evening that push down as those winds lighten, and then we're going to see those winds pick up again, which is going to break up the system. And we talked about that little bit of a break in the early hours of the morning before it returns. Northern Peninsula, Bayvert Peninsula, and the top of the north there, even all the way over to the Kittiwake Coast by tomorrow morning. You can see that dark band kind of in the middle here. I think that might actually track a little bit further south, so Fogo Island. A little bit of snow coming. We'll get you those totals in just a second. We push through into the afternoon, and again, it's just kind of stalling in the same places, isn't it? We push into the evening, we start to see that west wind take over, and a southwest wind for the West Coast. That brings some more snow. That's where that accumulation is going to pick up. In terms of seeing where the heaviest snowfall is, we're going to look for the darker colors. So, yeah, Fogo Island at the top of Kittiwake Coast, and a purple there, so that's the chance to hit that 30 mark. Say between 20, 25 with the opportunity for some pockets to get close to that 30 mark by end of day Thursday. That includes tonight's snow. It is possible for the Northern Peninsula. 20-ish to 25 for the South Coast of Labrador, and we'll see that trickle off as we move further west. So if numbers do it for you, let's go. St. Anthony, 25 to 35 by end of day Thursday. Bayvert Peninsula, 20 to 25. Fogo Island in there as well. It starts to trickle off, but still a fair amount for Parsons Pond through to Springdale, and Corner Brook, that 15 centimeters again, picking up tomorrow evening into some actual snow, but you will pick up a little bit of flurry activity tonight in through the overnight. Lumsden 10 to 15, Grand Falls, Windsor, and Gander about 10. Buckins 5 to 10 when it's all said and done. And you can see here quickly it picks up on the coast through the overnight on the southern side, cut right down to Red Bay, and just some flurries thereafter. So the totals in that 5 centimeter range for Cartwright, Makkovik, and Happy Valley Goose Bay. Less for Lab West and less again for Nain, but for Mary's Harbor and Red Bay. Mary's Harbor closer to that Northern Peninsula mark, Red Bay mimicking some of that West Coast activity there. So still a bit of snow to fall, and we got more to talk about on Friday, and again Monday. Looks like some fun, so we'll get to it. See you soon. Well, to sum it up, if you had snow today, you're likely going to have some snow tomorrow. It's just going to be a little bit delayed on the West Coast, but it does return into the evening there and extend back over Fogo Island. And we see that snow finishing up in Cartwright Thursday evening. Sun and cloud for a lot of the island, but the southern portion, emphasis is going to be on the wind, which likely means some waves. So thank you to those sending in photos again on Facebook. Carol Head sending this one in from Middle Cove. Boy, that looks cold. And we can do you one better in terms of that looking cold. Harbor Breton here, Beulah Drake, sending this one in. And I said on Facebook, I think I'm going to wait a couple months before I dip the toes into those waters. But this summer, mark my word, I will on the South Coast. 60 to 80 on the Avalon tomorrow morning. It's going to take until the supper time hour for that to pass off. Then we'll be on the high end of the average down to that 20 kilometer per hour mark on the West Coast, but holding that gusts of 40 along coastal Labrador. Again, just a reminder, that's a northeast wind across Labrador, so we're going to have things feeling a little bit cooler on the island compared to Labrador. And then by the afternoon, it's going to be a very manageable -15 in St. John's. Pretty well matched in Labrador West. We'll see you tomorrow. Tony Marie, Michael.
All right, thanks so much, Ryan, and thanks to